Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our Friday webinar. And we're approaching that season of holidays, food, family, fun, friends. And so we thought we would focus on helping us all prepare for those moments. Good morning, Dr. Chris.
Good morning, Dr. Tina. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. This will be a fun conversation, and let's get started, Dr. Tina.
Absolutely. So we look at these foods here this makes me hungry, by the way. We look at all these great foods here on the screen, and we're going to help you, with some tips today on, all of these things are not unhealthy, by the way. But a lot of things matter when you're looking at the feast. And, this is coming here in a couple weeks. And then we have, more coming next month. And so as we move into this season, we just want you to be able to offset or balance what you can do in order to stay healthy and not get sucked into moving into like the accelerated stress or accelerated aging phase with all of this food. And the emotional part of this too is, we're with family and or friends, and there's this whole social aspect. And part of this is like, I think an expectation of you need to eat more, you need to do more, you need to have more, you need to just consume as much as you possibly can. And so, as we age, hopefully we become wiser and we step back and we look at what are the ways that we can balance this or help you to balance this during this time. Dr. Chris.
Yeah, it's definitely colder weather. We don't exercise as much, and we're consuming all these wonderful foods and holiday festivities. So let's see what some good common sense tips are here, Dr. Tina.
Yeah, I mean, I want to just also review what are some of the harmful effects of overeating so that you can keep this in mind as well. And first of all, it's probably going to promote excess body fat, especially if you don't do some of the things that we talk about in these next few slides. And that's because, you're consuming more calories than you're burning. And that's been taught, for many, many ages, right? That if we continue to overconsume and we don't offset it with exercise and some of the things we'll talk about, you have the ability to just gain that excess body fat. The second thing that it does is it can disrupt your hunger regulation. In other words, when you overeat, you've got two major hormones. You've got ghrelin, which stimulates your appetite, and leptin, which suppresses your appetite. And so when you over consume, these two hormones come out of balance. And then what happens is the day after, your body still thinks it's in that feast mode. So we tend to overeat the next day. So all of those things get thrown off. The third thing is it may increase your disease risk. And this is when you're chronic overeating, because that can lead to obesity. Number 4, have you ever felt brain dead after you've eaten the feast? This could impair your brain function. By the way, over time, overeating will harm your brain function. Actually, several studies have shown that continuous overeating in older adults does cause mental decline compared to those who do not overeat. Overeating, number 5, can make you nauseous. Number 6, it may cause excessive gas and bloating, especially when you're looking at all of these different foods and combining them. You can just end up with, digestive issues triggering that gas and bloating, which is not fun. And number 7, I know I have experienced this when I overeat. I just become sluggish and tired. And, this is because of the reacting hypoglycemia when blood sugars drop so much after eating a big meal. And so, what can you do to prepare for the feast? Here are some tips. Take a picture of this screen. Start today or tomorrow with your time restricted eating. And 1 to 3 weeks prior to a celebration or a feast, you're going to be, engaging in overeating. Move into that time restricted eating schedule. Dr. Chris, do you want to talk about that one and give some tips on the time restricted eating?
The most important benefit is that it gives your body time to rest and repair and regenerate. So all your cleansing functions and your regeneration functions happen and you sleep better. But the recommendation, though, is to acclimate to it. And this is why, Dr. Tina is recommending you start ahead of time prior because you want to adapt to time restriction. You just don't jump right into it. You have a 12-hour window, 12 hours of consumption and then 12 hours of rest and restriction. And then in a few days or a week, move to 14 hours of restriction and then 16 hours. So you have 8-hour window of consumption and then a 16-hour window of restriction. So it's a nice balanced approach in how you get to it. And it doesn't have to be hard, and you'll really appreciate how good you'll feel, right, Dr. Tina?
Absolutely. And remove the heavy bad fats 1 to 3 weeks prior, the processed, the sugars, the processed foods, anything white, keep out of your diet. Remove alcohol for a couple of weeks prior. Get to exercising. The more you can get your exercise going now, you are not going to believe this. The day that you have a feast, the day after, because your metabolism is working so well, you can actually lose weight after a day of feast. So get your walking in. And if you're already walking, step it up. Go a little bit faster. It's not about going longer. It's going, a lot faster. Get that heart rate up. High intensity interval training is really also important because that helps you to, you exert and then you take a rest. You exert, you take a rest. And you only have to do that for 20 minutes. Endurance training, do sprinting, for a very short period of time. And then slow down. That also helps. That's kind of high intensity interval training. Endurance training just means go further than what you've done. And then strength training. There's so many studies now around muscle and having muscle. And when our muscle depletes, we actually end up aging faster. So you want to be able to increase your muscle. And because 40% of our body weight is typically muscle, and that's where our mitochondria is. And so we want to have healthy muscle. And Dr. Chris, do you want to talk about that at all?
Well, just maybe exercise overall, because your recommendations listed here are, the variations of aerobic and anaerobic. And this is important because you need both. They do different things. The aerobic is cardiovascular, the anaerobic is building that muscle and the mitochondrial function for energy. And I think one of the biggest mistakes we all make with exercise is that we don't make it variable, meaning that all the range of motion and the different body parts. So if you're walking, walk sideways, walk backwards, walk, in different directions, because now you're working all the muscles of the body. And this is why it's so important to understand, the musculature is a key component to our physiology. But we have to understand when we exercise those muscles that we do all the muscles to maintain balance and the integrity of full body function. And this is something that really isn't emphasized, right, Dr. Tina?
Yes. And there's only two ways to stimulate muscle: exercise and diet. And we'll talk about some of that diet stuff as well. So we want our muscles to be strong, because as our muscle declines, we feel more fatigued. And then we feel too fatigued, and then we don't want to work out, or we don't want to work our muscles. And between the ages of 50 and 60, we lose about 1.5% of strength per year. And then between the ages of 60 and 70, if we're not doing strength training, we're losing 3% of strength per year between those 10 years. So if you're not doing, and it's not too late to start, and you don't have to use heavy weights, use your body weight first, and start rebuilding that muscle. Okay. And then increase your Telo-Youth. And you can do this to increase energy. I take my Telo-Youth whenever I need to work out or play pickleball. I take it beforehand. Afterwards, for recovery, and then stress resiliency, teaching a webinar, okay, taking it beforehand whenever I have to be focused. So use it as a good tool. And all of these things here will really help you as you're preparing for any kind of feast or celebration, okay? Now, the day of. Drink water most of the day until your big meal. And then you're going to eat your large meal. And when you're eating the large meal, we showed that picture of all those foods. Get your protein in first. And there's a reason for that. First of all, it's the slowest to break down. So you get that protein in, you're going to get the amino acids in first, which support your muscles. Then you're going to eat the fats, then the carbs. And the last thing you're going to do is eat those vegetables. And you want to make sure you eat those vegetables, because that's the fiber that is going to move all of that other food that you ate first through the intestinal tract. It comes in and it cleans things up and helps you to continue the digestion and the elimination process. Take 4 to 6 Telomega with your meal on that big meal. And if you're going to drink alcohol that day, please do not start drinking alcohol on an empty stomach. This is when your blood sugars go bonkers. And just like the European countries, what'll happen is they'll have an appetizer out, they'll have a charcuterie board, olives, they'll have cheese and crackers. And before they take that first sip of alcohol, they take a bite of food. This slows down the absorption rate of the alcohol. So key factor, if you're having alcohol, eat something first, 1 or 2 bites before you take a sip of the alcohol. And then if you can, walk after your meal, anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. We used to say, okay, you need to digest after, and oh, by the way, just rest after and allow your digestion to work. And now they're actually showing that it's better for you to actually walk. Go out and take a 20 to 30-minute walk, and then that will actually help with digestion. And then always remember to take your Telo-Youth, in the morning and in the evening as well. Dr. Chris, what do you have to add about the feast day?
I think, obviously, again, common sense applies here. If the meal is in the evening, you don't want to just drink water all day, and it's fasting, you want to just time it. Like if you have 4 hours before the big meal, that's when you want to just start doing the water. And the walk after the meal, that's huge. I mean, exercise, bike, walk, do whatever you can after that meal, because that is really going to help you, the body deal with all the overconsumption. And of course, if you can exercise before that big meal to get your metabolism going, and then you'll find that you'll enjoy the opportunity to have those appetizers before and then handle the big meal, because your metabolism is going to be really cranked up and waiting for those calories to come in. So these are all really great recommendations. Thanks, Dr. Tina.
You're welcome. Thank you. Afterwards, it's going to be very similar to what you did before. The next day, return to your time restricted eating. Removing those heavy fats, sugars, processed foods. Okay, we're going to probably have leftovers. So, go to eating them one time throughout the day if you can, or two smaller meals within a very restricted time. And removing the alcohol, get your exercise in, and your tello유스, just like we talked about beforehand. Dr. Chris, do you want to add anything here before we jump into some optional supplements they can do?
Let's get into the key supplements. I think again, this is all just great recommendations. So
Okay.
see how you can implement it. Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about what are some of the optional things you can do. The first one here on the list is an herb. It's berberine, and it's getting a lot of attention right now. And there's some real key factors when you're looking to take berberine. It does help curb your appetite, and it can potentially help you with weight loss. So depending on how many milligrams you get, it'll tell you what you need for the bottle. So take the recommended amount on the bottle. And you can take it an hour to 30 minutes prior to eating if you want to curb your appetite. And never take berberine before bed on an empty stomach, because you'll wake up with a headache, because your blood sugars are going to be too low. So take it, before a meal. And then that will help you to not eat as much. Now, this is an herb. You want to use it for 3 weeks and then stop for a week. Or you have the option, take it for 5 days and stop for 2 days. And you can continue with that. And so this is something that can help you before, can help you the day of the feast, and it can definitely help you afterwards to help increase your metabolism, okay, and help with that potential weight loss and curbing your appetite. Dr. Chris, do you have anything to add about berberine?
I do. This is one that I've just recently discovered, unfortunately, so late in my practice. And, a top cardiologist said berberine may be the single most greatest supplement that exists. And I'm saying, wow, that's a pretty heavy statement. Well, that's because let's talk about some more of the benefits. Dr. Tina, you mentioned as far as, don't take it at bedtime, because it really does work with blood sugar regulation. And they did tests with compared to metformin, which is the most common form of type 2 diabetes oral medication. And it showed identical effects without having the pharmaceutical side effects. So berberine helps fight diabetes very effectively. It is so important as an antimicrobial. It's been shown to go after all these bad guys, the Shigella, the Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, Clostridium, I can go on and on. But here's the key: it doesn't harm the good guys, the good bacteria, the lactobacilli in the small intestine, the bifidobacteria in the large intestine. So it discriminates, it knows how to go after the bad guys, but keep the good guys healthy and strong. So that's really a key component. It helps you clean up the fats and burn the fats in the body. It's excellent as an antioxidant, and it helps clean up all the toxins. So it really supports the liver and kidneys. And one of another key area that we talk about all the time is leaky gut, and it'll help tighten the junctures in your small intestines. So this, is very important to help prevent leaky gut. And for men, really key with prostate health. Anyone that has prostate cancer, this prevents metastasis, meaning it prevents the spread of that cancer throughout the rest of the body because it's so protective as a powerful supplement. So sorry to spend so much time on this, Dr. Tina, but I think it's such a key component in why you put it number one. And I think it's just fabulous for all of us to discover the power of berberine.
It is. And if you are on insulin or taking any medications, you need to be very careful with berberine because your insulin can get thrown off as well. Just like we say with Tello유s, you need to be very careful because your body will start to take over its own rebalancing. So just make note of that. Yeah, it is a great supplement. And let's look at B complex. B complex, we don't get enough Bs in our diet anymore, and we need this for energy production, mitochondrial production. B complex also helps with digestion. And this is something that you would take the recommended amount on the bottle, and you'll take this with your food. Okay, so the next 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to talk about you take it with your meal, okay, to help with that digestion and producing energy. Anything to add on B complex?
Just to reemphasize, functional medicine doctors, after a vitamin C drip, they'll look at your vitamin B consumption because it plays such a key role. If you go back in some of our previous presentations about metabolism and methylation, how we make energy, how we metabolize, all require the B vitamins. And so it's the whole shebang, the B12, B6, B2, B3, B12, folate.
Folate. Yep. Make sure it
Yeah,
has folate in it as well. So look
exactly.
for a good one. And then we have digestive enzymes. Obviously, if you're going to be overeating, a lot of people will end up with heartburn or the acid alkaline balance in their stomach is off. And so digestive enzymes can help you. And you take those with your meal. There are many kind of digestive enzymes. There's proteolytic, there's all different kinds. And so you want to get a good full spectrum digestive enzyme. If you don't have those and you'd rather drink kombucha, that is a great fermented drink that you can drink after your meal if you start to get heartburn or you want help with digestion. And the kombucha you can get at any store these days. It's become very popular. And it's interesting. I used to have to use digestive enzymes when my digestion was pretty weak, and then eventually, over time, it got better. And now I just use it when I have a real heavy protein meal, or like I have a feasting meal. So, Dr. Chris, what would you like to add?
Just to reemphasize the kombucha, I think it's so popular and pervasive out there because it helps with digestion, and we know our general population has digestive issues. So it's kind of like it's a good thing it's come along at the right time, right?
Yes. And then we have NAC, an antioxidant. It helps us to produce our own antioxidants, precursor for glutathione. And this is NAC is great for energy production as well. So notice we're talking about energy here with the Bs and the NAC. And take what's recommended on the bottle and consume this with your meal will help you. We need energy for the digestion, by the way. So this is going to help you recover from the feast. You can take, by the way, any of these supplements you can add in and take in addition with your meals. I tell people, don't get so hung up on having to take them all the time. Sometimes you can just do 2 or 3 days a week and then take the other days off. But when you're going through this feasting mode and preparing, you might want to start with some of these to help you as you get into those stressors of the extra food. Dr. Chris?
The emphasis for me is to read that first sentence on helps to produce glutathione and why. as glutathione is so important. It's the number one major antioxidant that the body makes. So this supports its body's production, and you can't. It's difficult to supplement glutathione. It's something that you have to rely on the body to make, and why NAC is so important. But it
Exactly.
supports all the detoxification organs, the kidneys and liver, helps with oxidative stress, like we just said. Fertility, improves fertility in men and women, helps respiratory issues. So because what it does, it loosens up the mucus that's built up on the lining of the lungs and the bronchioles, so that you can have that cleansing effect whenever you have that buildup. And so stabilizing your blood sugar, and the way it does that is because it reduces the inflammation in your fat cells. Because we have excess fat, it produces inflammation. And to think that NAC will help, improve that situation, stabilizing your blood sugar in that by reducing inflammation. So really key component, Dr. Tina.
Yes. And this last one I'm really excited about because I've seen some measurements change when I work with clients and do tests for them and see that they have very high levels of bad fats, the omega-6, the AA, the acronic acid, just call it AA. When you have real high levels of those omega-6s in your body, um, the two things that really help bring it down and saponify those bad fats are telomega and L-carnitine. And L-carnitine you can find in very lean meats, but you can't eat enough of it to help break down those bad fat stores. And so L-carnitine over time, along with telomega, works very synergistically. And I've seen these test results happen within 6 months of bringing those bad fats down. And so this is a great one if you have any fat deposits around the belly. If anybody has any cellulite, this is a great supplement to take along with your telomega while you're eating food. So it's definitely whatever's on the bottle, take that recommendation and then consume it with your food. Dr. Chris.
Recommended when people turn towards caffeine to get their energy, and that's fine to have a good cup of coffee or some green tea. But when you realize that L-carnitine helps you turn fat into energy, what a great way to take advantage of its multi-purpose. So you get rid of those fat stores as you just listed here, and you not only get rid of them, you help them to make energy. So very important nutrient. So again, thank you so much for this great presentation.